Welcome to Bad Gear, the show about the world's most hated audio tools. Instruments featured on this show usually come with at least one of the following three characteristics: corny sound that didn't age so well, a super nerdy concept people who actually have a life wouldn't even try to comprehend, and an impenetrable UI gatekeeping the sonic goodness. Today we're going to talk about Korg's iconic Wavestations. These early 90s wave sequencing synths are undisputed top performers in each of the aforementioned categories, and while the standard versions already require a certain willingness to suffer, I, a trained professional, upped the difficulty level a bit and opted for the Dark Souls-like SR edition. Don't try this at home or at all. At the first glance, Wavestations are ticking all the what the actual F boxes. Back in the day when presets were glorious and mostly useless, synthesists used to plow through two manuals with a total page count of 328 before breakfast didn't mind downgrading to subpar displays in order to save rack space, and the SY22 joystick spits out the same MIDI CCs anyways, as we are talking about differences between the four hardware Wavestations. The EX version came with bread and butter samples, the original was missing, the big AD rack version had audio ins for processing and vocoding, and while the smaller SR here is devoid of the aforementioned main UI elements, its RAM and ROM banks are maxed out. These otherwise mostly identical synths are basically rompless, old school PCM samples ranging from M1-like staples usable drum hits and raw waveforms, including Prophet VS stuff. Speaking of, the underlying vector synthesis technology allows you to blend up to 4 waves even without a joystick. Wave sequencing functionality we will talk about in a minute aside, the Synth Engine comes with a few surprising limitations like resonance-less filter, slow LFOs, and a disturbing lack of ring modulation. 80s-style multi-stage envelopes are nice to have but tedious to dial in. 8 of these patches are assigned to a part each, which can be used simultaneously in a performance and routed to multiple outputs and a dual multi-FX section. There's another layer of multi-timbrality seriously limited by the total polyphony of 32, and a workflow even sound on sound wanders about. So far, so underwhelming. Time to take a look at the feature that turned Wavestations into ambient and nature documentary soundtrack powerhouses. Wave sequencing allows you to, you guessed it, create sequences of samples. The tones can either be combined to choppy patterns, turned into slowly evolving soundscapes by dialing in crossfades, or a combination of both. Feel free to create loopable sequences of up to 255 steps and play them forward and backwards with dedicated per step length, pitch, crossfade duration, volume, and sample start-stop points. Especially on the SR, programming these sequences is not exactly convenient, and I needed to RTFM hard. I was surprised by the prices Wavestations tend to go for these days, but believe me, you either want to get the official vintage plugin or one of the more recent Wavestate synths anyways. Korg's unique wave sequencing concept breathed new life into the utilitarian world of early 90s sample players. Have Wavestations been surpassed by their plugin counterparts and modern hardware takes on the subject? You have already heard the little SR in today's intro tune. Aren't classic Wavestation patterns nothing but the dubstep verbs of 1991? Let's browse through a few presets and try to find out if multi-mode was actually that bad. Interesting, semi-convincing rompler slop aside, the bass sounds are surprisingly punchy and gritty, but the UI is indeed a challenge. There are worse multi-modes, but not many. I've yet to find the wave sequence editor in the Tartarus that is the SR's menu system. Time for another coffee-fueled Arty FM session. This might be one of the most elaborate ways to keep people from actually making music, but I nonetheless like the results. The raw sample waveforms still sound fresh. It is not always easy to fit Wavestation patches into an arrangement. I wanna know if some actual mixing can solve that issue in this undanceable art school techno meandering through a kaleidoscopic wasteland of waves. Wavestations demonstrate impressively that a little twist can turn humble sample players into psychedelic sound design machines. However, while the mere possibility of creating these tones was enough to sell synths back in the day, today's synthesists tend to be less patient, and Korg's more recent offerings are more approachable, more convenient to use, and come with a wider set of sound creation tools. Those of you who actually want to produce music based on wave sequencing patches will most probably stick to one of these more modern alternatives, but nothing beats the uplifting catharsis of spending an entire weekend on getting wasted while exploring the inner workings of ancient music technology until you rage quit without having recorded a single note. Thanks for watching and see you next time! Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed the episode. Feel free to like, subscribe, become a patron and use one of the links down below that support the channel regardless of what your bad gear gas commands you to buy.